What's good, everyone? Appreciate those of y'all tuning in and watching the video here. Today, we're going to be breaking down Clemson cornerback Aveion Terrell. I really like what he has to offer. I love his technique in man coverage. I love his instincts in zone coverage as well. And just a really good football player. I feel like someone that, with the technique mastered the way he does, or that he has it right now, can become a really good football player in the National Football League. And overall, the cornerback class this year doesn't really get a whole lot of love. Like when you talk about the top corners, the names that are going to be mentioned, there's D'Angelo Pons. He's obviously a very good player, um, really talented. Then you're also going to think about the LSU corner, Matt Delane, who I feel like a majority of scouts feel like is going to be the first corner taken off the board. But please do not sleep on Aveion Terrell because he's really polished, and we're going to see it here. So in the first video, the wide receiver to the top of the screen that Terrell is going against is running an outside release go route. So in the wide receiver's mind, what he's going to want to do is kind of make a move to the inside to be able to give him space for the outside go. So when you're thinking about it now from the corner's mindset, Terrell here, what you're going to want to do is you're going to always want to stay your ground. So when the wide receiver tries to create space, what you're going to want to do, maybe take a step or half a step back to allow you to give yourself some space to be able to react and get out of that 2 foot stance right there. So here he is, and I just love the patience that he has right here because most corners in this situation, they're not going to they're going to most likely just lunge and get their hands out to try to control and steer the wide receiver. But in this instance right here, like look at Terrell's feet right here, about the 30-yard line. Then when the wide receiver finally gets to the top of his release, they're on the upper side of the 30-yard line, almost kind of closer to the 29 too. Then eventually, because now you have to understand as a corner the timing aspect of it, much like the wide receiver does. You can't give too much window dressing because there's a timing element to this. So at about right now, we can turn our hips and open the gate to the wide receiver, push him to the sideline, and look at that. Just really good stop start ability at 5'11". The players on that kind of spectrum of size are going to be having much more stop start ability. And then look at his eyes, just glued to the wide receiver's hips, stays in perfect coverage. And then just overall great instincts right there. Wide receiver turns his head inside the field, which means and must signal to the defensive back the ball is out, the ball is coming to the wide receiver's way. I love how he doesn't panic. He just really gets into the wide receiver's chest, forces him to the outside, not pushes, but forces him. And then look at that pick. One-handed, like that's a guy that's got obvious athleticism. So then you combine his athleticism right there with his overall instincts and technique. That's the making of a really good football player. You ask any DB coach in the country, whether that's at the high school, college, or pro level, the crossing route is the hardest route that you have to cover because the wide receiver is going to gain an obvious advantage. Number one, because he's going to be beating you to a spot and he's just going to be running just across the field. So you have to chase him, not only chase him, his body, but you also have to understand where that ball is going to be because if that ball is perfectly placed, I mean, there's just not too much you can do other than have unreal athletic ability and know how to get to the spot. So this is a crossing route that Terrell's going to be having to cover right here. Again, one of the toughest routes to cover, not only because you're having to work to a spot, but most likely you have to be working through traffic from your teammates or the opposition. I mean, he does a really good job at it right here. Like number 9 right there, the linebacker. I went too far. My apologies. Like he does a really good job. Number 9 does right here. He kind of gets his eyes to number 13, backs up, gives Terrell some space. But Terrell's got that ability to be in pretty good and decent position right there. My apologies here to everyone in the audience that's watching this video and to Terrell right here because he's actually going to cover for longer than expected right here. So, right here, the wide receiver, he's in scramble mode. He understands that the timing element is already broken. He's going to have to fight back or work back to the quarterback right here. And as a defensive back, if you're covering for 3 seconds or more, that feels like an eternity. So, going back to the original play of this clip, right? Okay, it's the crossing route. Then you can just count in your head from the snap, from the beginning of the clip. And this is played at half speed, but that's still a long time to recover. And look at that. Look at that reward that he gets with the interception. Terrell is listed at the combine for having 31-inch arms. And I love, like I said, I love his overall technique because right here, he's pushing the receiver to the boundary. Of course, yeah, he's getting a little bit of a grab and a little bit of a tug, but at this point, it's kind of allowable. Like it's not anything that's overly aggressive, if you know what I mean. And then he's just pushing him to the sideline. And then the underrated aspect that I love right here is he gets into the wide receiver's hip pocket. You hear a lot of defensive back coaches say, just get into the hip pocket, get into the hip pocket and force him to the sideline or turn him. Now, what that basically means right here is instead of the wide receiver's pad level or pads right here being straight and kind of perpendicular, they're really just turned. So now the wide receiver, for instance, in this case, his left shoulder is going to be ahead of his right shoulder here. So he's turning him, making it really difficult for him to not only catch the ball, but at this point catch it inside, catch it in bounds, really. I feel like if there's one thing that we could kind of point at to feel like this is a knock on him, it would probably be like overall speed. Like he has some quickness to him, but really just overall speed and really beating people or the opposition to a spot, really. So here he is at the bottom of the screen. The wide receiver is going to be on a slant route right here. But while I say that there is a negative in this play, there's also a plus right here. And the plus is that he does a really good job of just, even though sometimes he does get beat, he uses his arm length really just to fight through the ball and really fight through the play. So we're looking to the bottom of the screen right here, wide receiver, and then he opens up with the wide receiver here. And I feel like at this point right here, when you open up, you really just you got to close space with that wide receiver eventually at this point. So, I mean, technically, he gets beat right there, but then look at him lunge. That's a good motor. I mean, and a really good thing to see from a defense player to just to have that, even though you lost the rep technically like, kind of, you can still be able to fight through it. The patience he has, and really understanding and knowledge of timing is just really good right here. So this is Terrell to the bottom of the screen, working on the slant route right here. Like that's really good patience right here. Never does he feel threatened. And when you watch a corner, that's one thing you want to just really look at. He's always in a good athletic position and an athletic stance here. Doesn't get overwhelmed by any kind of window dressing that the wide receiver gives him. Stays patient, gets hip to hip right here, and a good pass breakup. This specific play right here is where the instincts are really on full display right here. At the bottom of the screen, the route combination that we have from the opposition here is you're going to have a hitch right here, and then this kind of like go hitch. I think it's a go. Then eventually, when the receiver kind of looks and understands that the ball's not coming his way, he kind of just sits in this part of the field right here. But watch Terrell to the bottom of the screen right here, standing at the 48, and just his instincts right here. So they're in a zone and he's just really watching the eyes of the quarterback. So he feels and he actually sees this open space right here. He sees the wide receiver with their leg extended out like that. looking at the defense or really even looking back at the quarterback, that signals to Terrell that this eventually the ball's going to be coming out soon. So he gets work into that direction. I mean, it's a poorly thrown pass, but the instincts is the thing I want y'all to take away from Terrell right here. He understands it, makes a play on it. There's been a lot of good plays that we've broken down so far, but I would say, in my opinion, this is probably the best play I've seen in his collegiate career right here. Like, this is some next level stuff that he does to the top of the screen right here. And his technique is just, it's absolutely flawless altogether. But in this play specifically, it is on a different level. So watch Terrell just to the top of the screen. I'm just going to have you all just watch it right here. There he is to the top of the screen, opens up the gate, and he's really covering. I want to say he's doing two jobs in one right here. The first thing he does is he's not going to open up to the wide receiver. Instead, he's going to open up to the side of the ball, or we'll just call it the strong side, the play side here. That's where he's opening up to, is the quarterback and the ball. Opens up to the quarterback and the ball, and having to cover the wide receiver and be comfortable with putting your back to the wide receiver and allowing him to get into that blind spot is just supreme confidence that he has right here. So then the ball's out in the air. A lot of cornerbacks, they kind of, you can see and you can really get a sense of when that ball's in the air and maybe they're in position, they're not in good position, them kind of panic. He doesn't panic right here. He gets hip to hip, pushes the receiver to the sideline. And really, there was not too many places the quarterback could have gone there. Last play that we're going to break down right here. Again, just the same things said over and over again. Patience, trust, and confidence. Patience, trust, and confidence. Something he has to an outstanding level right here. So there's Terrell. He's number 8 right there. If you can see with the mouse, standing at the 45-yard line right here. In this situation, you would see a lot of cornerbacks, they would start to really press over to the middle of the field too far here. And that's exactly what LSU wants to do. They want him to feel threatened by anything to the inside because look, there's a lot of space out there. Terrell has just great confidence, great patience, great technique. He puts a lot of trust in that technique, not to really overcompensate or get too ahead of himself here. Nice footwork to break to the ball, makes a play on it, is able to get just enough for an incomplete pass.